called the chief of police again, warning of the possibility of some effort against Oswald, and again he assured us adequate protection would be given. However, this was not done. Oswald having been killed today after our warnings to the Dallas Police Department was inexcusable. About Jack Ruby, who'd been arrested instantly for killing Oswald, Hoover said, "We have no information on Ruby that is firm, although there are some rumors of underworld activity in Chicago." For many, understanding Jack Ruby, his background, travel, and associates, became the key to blowing open the conspiracy. For example, one author and former high-ranking official in the administration of Richard Nixon has said that in 1982, Nixon recalled hiring Ruby as an informant for the House Un-American Activities Committee when Nixon was a member of Congress. The official, who believes Lyndon Johnson was the architect of the assassination, claimed Nixon said he hired Ruby at the behest of LBJ, one of Johnson's boys. A document, presumably from a congressional staffer in 1947, even sought to prevent Jack Rubenstein, Ruby's given name was Rubenstein, from having to testify in front of the committee in public. "It is my sworn statement that one Jack Rubenstein of Chicago, noted as a potential witness for hearings of the House Committee on Un-American Activities, is performing information functions for the staff of Congressman Richard M. Nixon, representative of California. It is requested Rubenstein not be called for open testimony in those aforementioned hearings." Putting aside the paucity of support for any theory that Johnson was somehow involved, some dispute the authenticity of the document. Others more persuasively argue that the Jack Rubenstein referred to in the document was a prominent young communist of the same name who later became a labor union official. But perhaps most importantly, the source of the supposed Johnson connection came from a former Nixon official named Roger Stone, who was convicted and then pardoned by then-President Donald Trump of a host of crimes, including lying to Congress. But this sort of conspiracy rabbit hole is familiar terrain for many Kennedy assassination buffs. Even those with mundane intentions can get caught up in the desire to find that tantalizing Ruby connection that could break open the case. There would be no more certain way to do so than by offering proof of a connection between Oswald and Ruby, who, according to every official account, did not know one another. Texas Judge Brandon Birmingham, an expert on the Ruby trial, had access to many of the original documents and pieces of evidence in that trial, which were stored at the Dallas courthouse. He described digging through the files as part of an effort to find and preserve evidence for a local museum. There, he made a startling finding. "One day I found a transcript of a tape-recorded conversation between Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby from days before the assassination. I nearly had a heart attack." If this transcript was authenticated, it would have proved that these two critical figures, who supposedly had each acted alone and did not know one another, were actually part of a larger conspiracy to kill the president. For about 30 minutes, I thought I'd uncovered a single piece of evidence that would have rewritten the history books. It certainly would have done just that. Alas, it was not meant to be. He realized it was part of a movie script written in the 70s. In my defense, it did look like an official transcript, numbered margins and all. In retrospect, it's fair to say that the official and often underappreciated 888-page Warren Commission report, which ruled out any possible conspiracies, missed some details and got certain facts wrong. The FBI and CIA were partially responsible, since both had Oswald on their radar, though not as a threat to the president, and sought to minimize that fact. But did the report whiff on the ultimate question of whether Oswald and then Ruby acted alone? That question was certainly in our minds when we decided to further examine one of the most interesting and often overlooked trials of modern American history. A forgotten trial somehow few have focused on, despite the fact that it served as the genesis or launching pad for many of the conspiracy theories. Sometimes in the form of testimony, and many other times with questions left unanswered. And while the trial wasn't about a possible conspiracy, the issue was forever lurking within the halls of the courthouse and the courtroom itself. Both sides sought to use the possibility of there being more to the story for strategic advantage. It has even been alleged that the defense team was involved in the conspiracy, that Ruby's lead attorney, Melvin Belli, then